Thank you very much. And thank you for allowing me to be here and share this with you. I'm going to get a very hot topic about what has been doing, what is going on, and what is going for the future. So let me start. So, as you see, motorcycle is the most dangerous mode of road travel due to the ability to gain high speed, poor visibility, risk-taking behavior of the drivers, road condition, lack of physical protection, lack of transit and law enforcement of the use. Over 90% of these deaths and disability will occur on the low and middle income countries, in which a large proportion of vehicles are two or three wheeler. UK data from 2017 is showing that a wider disparity between cars and motorcycles, 61.5 times as many deaths for given distance travel. However, this is based on the rate per million travel per individual and not the entire vehicle, so the rate is per billion passenger miles rather than vehicle miles. In the UK, the same year, there were 116.9 motorcyclist fatalities per billion passenger miles compared to 1.9 occupants of cars. So traveling a mile on a motorcycle carries a much higher risk of death or injury than driving the same distance in a car. Globally, deaths with those using two and three wheelers covering 28% from road traffic deaths. In the Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific, the majority of deaths are among riders of motor two-wheelers, who represent 43% of all deaths. In the Americas, 20%, and in Colombia is the 48, almost 50% from the road traffic deaths. Some statistics about this MTW. More than 6,500 motorized two-wheelers users die each year in the European Union. According to National Center for Statistics Analysis, 5,286 motorcyclists were killed in U.S. roadways in 2016, which is a 5.1% increase from the 2015. In 2016, motorcycle fatalities occurred 28 times more frequently than passenger vehicle fatalities in motor vehicle crashes. And the risk of death for motorcyclists is 20 times that of car occupants. Worldwide, more than 50% of fatalities are pedestrian and drivers of the motorcycle two-wheelers vehicles. So the objective of this presentation is an overview of the facts related with research, findings, and legislation related with the motorized two-wheelers. The key points here, as we already say some of them, is road traffic injury in 2017 is still the 8th cause of death for all ages group. Road traffic injury is the first cause of death in the 5 to 29 age group around the world, and it is also 3 times higher death rate in low-income countries than in high-income countries. The main users of motor two-wheelers are in the 5 to 29 age group, mainly in low-middle-income countries. Drivers are more likely to be involved in collisions, injuries, and fatalities due to their small size, poor visibility, and lack protection are among these groups. Young male drivers, as you see in the many presentations from yesterday and today, in general are more likely to speed, take risks, and not to use protective equipment such as helmets. Motor two-wheelers, such motorcycle, mopeds, and scooters, are the driver relatively cheap, fast, and convenient form of transportation that have become popular as private vehicles in many low-income countries. So what is known until now in this mobility and safety? So some part of history. This is in the decade of late 1880s. Dozens of design of machines emerged as a cycle-propelled vehicles, particularly in Germany and in England, and soon spread to America, as Ryan showed yesterday, as the cars. And that began the first series of production of motorcycle, and they call it motorcycle. And the first more, let's say, reported death was from this guy who was very famous, the Thomas Edward, actually Sir Thomas Edward Lawrence, was the first famous motorcycle killed as a road user. Here, his international fame as the famous movie of the Lawrence of Arabia. At the age of 46, he was fatally injured in an accident or incident on his broad superior SS 100 motorcycle in Dorset. A dip in the road obstructed his view of two boys on their bicycle. He lost control and was thrown over the handlebars. He died 6 days later, and his doctor research led to the use of crash helmets, both for military and civilian motorcyclists. That was in 1935. So helmets, as I was saying, the origin of the crash helmet dates back to the Brooklands race track in early 1914. So where the medical officer noticed that he was seeing motorcyclists with head injuries above every 2 weeks. He got Mr. Moss Bethel Green to make canvas and shellac helmets stiff enough to stand a heavy blow into a smooth enough glance of any projections it encountered. He presented the design to the Auto Cycle Union, where it was initially condemned, but they later converted to the idea and made them compulsory for the 1914 Isle of Man TT race that is still very famous in England. In May, as I mentioned, because of the crash of the Sir Lawrence, it was very get into the protection, the helmet, as their neurosurgeon says that he saw that as unnecessary loss of life by motorcycle dispatch riders through head injuries. Motorcycle helmet use reduce risk of severe injury by greater than 70% and death by nearly 40%. So between, like some reports, from 35 to 40, even over 42%. Law imposing helmet use can increase their use over 90% if they are enforced effectively. There are two main, let's say, studies that have been reported. One that was in US in 1981, the HART report, and the other was carried on in the European countries. That from the HART report we can find that there were some like a 55 findings that are still as a recommendation on now. But what are very important is that wearing a helmet and durable garments mitigate crash injury substantially. Conspicuity of the motorcycle is a critical factor in the multiple vehicles crashes, and its involvement is significantly reduced by the use of motorcycle headlamps on in daily light and wearing a high visibility yellow, orange, or bright red jackets. We go to this point of wearing later on in the presentation. And the maids just follow up the HORT report findings, most in helmet, but in use, but in conspicuity, no strong evidence was found when wearing a dark or bright colors. So what is used now in these times of motor two-wheelers mobility and safety? So we have evidence on safety issues like a vehicle design, road design, helmet use, poor visibility, protective clothing, and motor two-wheelers driver training and licensing. So we go each by one. So in vehicle design, anti-lock braking system has been proposed and is mandatory in the European Union, fitted into the 125 centimeters and over since those engines since 2017. And in India, as learned from Dinesh last night, is mandatory from 2 years ago, or about the same year for the same engines now. Airbag device and chest airbags are very controversial still. Visibility is mandatory, as we say, the use of daylight running lights, and its evidence made on this. It was being suggested that bright yellow sun front signal would be more practical and more effective than headlights in the daytime, but still there are controversy on it. And restricted engine capacity for beginner motorcyclists from 250 cc to 125 cc, accompanied by the limitation of the maximum power output to 9 kilowatts, and proved to be a successful measurement. Japan, for example, imposed limits for safety reasons on the engine size and performance of large motorcycle used domestically. Road design. Segregating motorcycle lanes. The exclusive lanes for motorcyclists is an option for road safety. However, it must be clear circulating alternative for other road users. Further research about vulnerable road users infrastructure is required. But according with some research in some countries nearby Malaysia, Singapore, and even a research that I carry out in Colombia, in my city, actually this is a good measure, infrastructure measure to protect motor two-wheelers drivers, because decreases not only injury but death in about 38%. According to the international literature, exclusive lanes can lead to a reduction of 34% to road traffic injuries on motorcycles. The choice of roadside barriers and guardrails to prevent vehicles from crossing over a median or running off the road safe proven to be dangerous for motorcyclist road design, and also road surface can also contribute to a crash, so there have been some improvement in those, because mostly in this case in road design there had been a lack of let's say efforts to look at motorcycles as a users of those roads. The helmet use, so I don't say much about that because it has been proven that is very efficient and with evidence base for protection of these riders. And there are also economic evaluation of mandatory helmet wearing law indicate that the use of helmet for all the riders has a cost-benefit ratio around 17, more or less 6 in Norway, and results confirmed by American cost-benefits analysis. Poor visibility. Small vehicles can wave around cars, enter blind spots, as we have been discussing previously. So really, there is a reflective visibility compared with none. The daylight headlight use also decreases by 27%. And the light color helmet in place of dark color helmets, it has been some studies showing some evidence, but others are not clearly on that. Protective clothing. So there are standards for even in the there are some for each part of the what you wear. For example, in the European Union, there are like a meta standard, like a quality standard for those clothing, but there is upon which is using the motorcycle, and that's the problem that we are not might reach all of the users. So the special protection system are used on the shoulders, elbows, at the same thing, but also there are some leg protected airbags and some other issues about how you protect yourself as a motorcycle. But the problem is, are they willing to use it? And estimating from studies that the severity of leg injuries are also showing them those possibilities to wear some like these airbags for the legs, but the problem is still that if they are ready to use them. So this is a prototype of how should be, but the problem is in our users in the part of the world where I come from, or around here in some of the South Asia countries. These are not possible, or you cannot see this as standard. So the training, we have been talking about the training, the training and licensing, and really is no very strong relationship with if you have been trained people as a drive a motorcycle that is decreasing with the incidents on the road. And so there are no compelling evidence that rider training associated with reduction in collisions, and also the license when there are no enforcement is useless mainly. So what is proposed to do in the near future to improve the motor two-wheeler mobility and safety? So maybe increasing political will. So despite better understanding of the problem and its solutions by clear scientific evidence, political will to carry out the necessary action is often lacking. Too many countries still lack funded strategies, lead agencies, and good laws that are enforced. So that is said by the Global Status Report on the Road Safety last year. But what we should do, are they listen to us, or are they may have this in their own agenda, and is this a priority for them? Stranded data collection, we were talking some of that this morning. So robust data are critical component of for the attainment of the future target. Without the ability to assess progress and the effectiveness of efforts and reduce fatalities and injuries, countries will not be able to identify gaps in the system and deliver detailed improvement. As a result of the difference in definition, reporting, and coding practices adopted by health, traffic, police, and insurance, the individual sources of data often provide an incomplete view of the actual situation. So it's a need, really, for validation or standardization of data among sources. So if they don't talk at the different levels, it's difficult to have a very good quality of the data. Ensuring accountability. Improving the safety of roads requires clear responsibility and accountability that cuts across sectors. A political will. Those who plan, design, and operate the road system share responsibility for creating a road system in which crashes do not result in death or serious injury? Are those taking into account the motor two-wheelers users? The above responsibility should be shared across government, business, media, and civil society, require alignment with range of society goals, careful government leadership, and an effective safety performance framework. The establishment of lead agencies in every country will appropriate capacity and related multi-sector coordination arrangement and a prerequisite for effective action. Is that happening and is going on right now? So, and also in legislation and enforcement, as the Global Status Report suggests, as measured against best practice criteria, they took 123 countries representing 6 billion people that have loved and meet best practice for at least one of the 5 key behavioral risk factors. Despite the progress made in improving legislation and COV, the 5 key risk factors, enforcement remains a major challenge in most countries. 49 countries have helmet laws that align with the best practice. It is important to notice that among the 123 countries, the major law improvement was in the helmet use by 0.4. And the follow country measure in improvement was speed limit law with 0.24. Enacting and enforcing legislation on key risk factors are critical components in integrated strategy to prevent road traffic deaths and injuries. So, how are we do it, or how are we going to make sure that this is happening? Authorities and public health and other sectors involved agenda. That comes to the famous Sustainable Development Goals that included in number 3 a goal that by 2020 to halve the number of global deaths and injuries from road traffic crashes. Are we able to accomplish this goal? We are 9 months apart from the 2020. So the target 7 in that goal by 2030 increases the proportion of motorcycle driving correctly using standard helmets to close to 100%. Remember from the previous slide, only 49 countries have that law imposed in their countries. So are we able to meet this target as well? Too many countries quietly lack funding strategies, lead agencies, and good laws that are enforced mainly to protect or giving alternatives to increasing motor two-wheelers users. In conclusion, the motorcycle safe should be addressed through a range of actions with a view to encourage research and technical development aimed to increase motor two-wheelers safety and reducing the consequences of incidents, such as progressive installation of advanced braking system, appropriate anti-tearing measurements, segregate lanes for these users. As the European Union legislation concerning roadworthiness testing, they already started ongoing effort to better adapt road infrastructure to these motor two-wheelers. This should also be adapted in other countries, encouraging all countries to focus enforcement to speed, drink, and driving and helmet use at least. Preventable actions involve mounting surveillance system, smart road designs, improving motor two-wheelers safety standards, and the creation and enforcement of public policies and laws should be continued in the near future and years to come to improve rider safety. Going forward, and it will be important to learn from experience up to now and address the evidence reported for researchers and expert groups from around the world, and politicians and decision makers should listen to experts and researchers to make more efficient their impact on their own communities to reduce injuries and deaths among motor two-wheelers users. Thank you very much.